Hi everyone, it's that time again when you might be starting to think about your year end. The year end process itself is straightforward. It's a simple wizard that includes a few options. However, before this, there's the preparation stage, ensuring you've posted everything, and of course, it involves running reports. But do you understand your reports and also the opportunities that you have to develop them? Ensuring they're accurate, but also that they provide you with the correct level of detail. Throughout January and February, we're running a series of live webinars to help develop your knowledge and understanding of the management reports available in Sage 50 accounts. We'll be starting with the basics, understanding nominal records and the structure of the nominal ledger. This is also ideal if you need to create new nominal codes. Following on from this, we'll examine the chart of accounts, looking at all aspects, including adding new layouts and editing existing ones. Our attention then turns to the management reports themselves, the trial balance, the profit and loss, and of course the balance sheet. We'll explain how to run them, what they show, and most importantly, how the figures calculate. We want you to be confident. On the management report session, one of the most common scenarios we're asked about is where you haven't yet run your year end, but need to generate a profit and loss report for your next financial year. We've got your back with this and have a specific webinar that explores the options you have available, whether it's running reports for your new financial year or even a previous one. The last webinar in the series looks at reconciling your age debtors and age creditor reports at year end, ensuring that the balances agree with the figures on your trial balance and the balance sheet. Of course, this could be done at any time, such as part of your month-end process. So come along and we'll demonstrate what to check and how to run them to ensure everything agrees. If you'd like to attend any or all of these sessions to help develop your knowledge and boost your confidence, then simply head along to sage.co.uk/webinars and register for your free place. These, along with loads of other topics, including how to run your year end, are available. See you soon.
Hi everybody! You might be approaching the end of your financial year and it's the perfect time to get your Sage 50 accounts in order. The year-end process itself is simple. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro or if it's your first time, it's just a few steps in the wizard. But before you dive in, there are some important checks and housekeeping tasks that will just make everything run smoothly. Things like archiving your company data just keeps it organised and improves performance. We'll show you how to create an archive and why it's a good habit. Then there's backing up your data, which is essential before making any changes, and we'll share best practice just to ensure your backups are reliable. And avoid accidental postings into a closed period by setting a lock date. It's quick to do and it saves headaches later. We'll also guide you through the year-end wizard as well, step by step, so you can complete the process with confidence. If you need to tidy up older unused records, we'll show you how to do that as well in our Delete Your Records webinar. And then we'll also cover how to clear the audit trail. It can help speed things up and we'll explain when it's appropriate and how to do that safely. So to help you to prepare, we're hosting a series of live webinars throughout January and February. These sessions will give you practical tips and demonstrations so you feel confident about your year end and keep your accounts in great shape. Don't miss this opportunity to start the new year with clean, organised data and peace of mind. Make sure you reserve your spot today at sage.co.uk/webinars, and we look forward to seeing you there. Hello everybody, I hope everybody's well today and having a good day so far. Today we're going to be looking at the lock date option and when you might use it. So I'm Laura, if you've not heard me before, and I'm going to be hosting the webinar today for you. We've also got Michael in the background, just waiting any for questions that you might have around this topic as well. If you do have any unrelated questions, we will try and answer those too as always, but we will prioritise ones around the lock date there. Anything we don't get answered, obviously we'll get back to you after the session there as well. So as usual, before we get started, just some housekeeping rules. So your mic will be muted automatically, but you'll see there is a little question icon on the toolbar where you can submit any questions that you may have for Michael. So just make sure that you pop them in there and keep them busy. And I'm also going to be including the slides in the handout section there, as there are some links at the end which you might find useful. So if you do want to download those, make sure you do that during the session. And there's also a printer-friendly version as well if you'd like to print that out and just make some notes on it. So today I'm going to be giving you an introduction around the lock date and what it's used for. And then following that, we'll go through a series of demonstrations within the programme just so you can see how it works and the messages and the warnings that you might get up if you try and post something prior to a set lock date, and just the differences between them as well. But before we do that, I'm just going to run a quick poll just so I can see your understanding of what you think a lock date is used for there. So I'll pop that on the screen there now for you. So I just want to see, what do you think a lock date is used for? Is it to prevent certain users from posting before a specified date? Or is it to prevent all users from posting before a specified date there? Or is I've written specific date? So I'll give you a few seconds there. It's not a huge amount of people here today, so it shouldn't take too long just to pop those answers in there. And then we'll just wait for those to come through. So what do you think that the lock date's used for? Do you think it's to prevent everybody from posting into a previous date or before a lock date, or do you think it's just for certain users? Just give you a couple of moments there to fill that in. Got some answers coming in there, so I'll end that now. If nobody else is going to pop those in, and then we'll share those results there. So we've got 33% of people think that it's to prevent certain users posting before a specific date, and 67% of you think it's to prevent all users from posting into a specific date there. So I'll just pop back to my slides there. How's that, Paul? So the lock date prevents certain users, but not all users, from posting transactions before a specific date. So you can set that specific date within the program, and I'll go into that a little bit more now so you can see what that looks like. So what the lock date does is it controls who can and can't post a transaction before a specified date. So that depends on the user's settings. They're going to get one of two messages, which you can see on the screen there. So if they're authorised to post before a lock date, they're going to get a warning message, just making them aware that there is a lock date, but they can still post into this just by clicking yes to continue. If they're not authorised to do this, then they're going to get an error message which tells them that they're not able to post prior to that lock date that's been set there. So you can say all they can click on there is OK, and it won't let them post prior to that lock date. Now, you might use a lock date to prevent people posting into a previous financial year, or if you've closed a month down and have generated monthly reports, you might not want anybody then posting into that month, for example. But the key to who can and can't post into a lock date is down to their user settings. And we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail within the demonstration there. One thing to remember is that a lock date is a date that's set for all users who access the company. It's the user's individual access levels that determine if they're presented with either that warning message, which they can then override, or if they get the error message, which prevents them from posting. So you can amend or remove a lock date at any time from within the settings menu and just selecting lock date. This is then removed for absolutely everybody. And you can also access the lock date through the period end options too there. But with the lock date, a common question that we do get when I was on technical support is whether this also prevents genuine previous year postings. For example, if you later receive some adjustments from your accountant and you need to make it or pop it into your previous year, don't worry, even when you've applied a lock date, anybody who logs into the company, either using the manager logon details or any users who've been given access to override that lock date, can still post into a previous financial year there. What they'll see is they'll get that warning message, but these users have the option to go ahead and still post into that lock date, so they can still override it. So I'll pop into my system and we'll have a look at what it actually looks like there. So I'll just open up my Sage so you can see that there. So first of all, we'll have a look at just where you can access the lock date settings. So there's a few different places. So if I go to Tools at the top, I'm going to go into Period End first of all and just show you the two options in here. So the first one we've got is our month end option. So if you run a month end, you'll be familiar with this window here. But from the month end option in here, within the month end options, you can tick this little box on here. You can enter a lock date in here, and it just says to prevent new transactions before this date, usually the last date of your current month, using this particular lock date on there. You can free type into this box if you want to. There's also a little calendar icon which you can click on as well. But when you, I'll just untick that. When you click the icon here just to set that lock date, you'll see down here the run the month end options. It now is going to run and it's going to set that lock date as part of that month end. So that's the first place that you can do that. So I've just cancel out of there. And then we're going to go back into Tools and Period End again. And this time we're going to go into the Year End option. Just drag that across. Same place in the year-end options, you've also got the option within here to prevent new transactions from being entered again before the date that you're setting in here. Usually when you're running your year-end, it would be the first day of your new financial year. So if I tick that, my financial year runs from January to December. I haven't ran my financial year yet, so I'm still in my 2025 year. So it's telling me that this is the lock date that it would put on there for me, the 1st of January 2026. And again, it adds it in the list of things that it's going to do when you run that year end down there. I'll untick that for now, just cancel out of there. And then the last place that you can set it, so if you're not running a year end, you're not running a month end, but you still want to set a lock date, is in settings just at the top. And if we go down to lock date, click that. Now again, if you can't see that option in there, that'll be your user access, which we will come on to in a bit. But within here, we can set a lock date at any point in time on there. So I'm going to set mine to the 1st of January 2026. And it'll say, note, all dates prior to this will now be locked and only users with access rights to lock dates will be able to post. So I'm going to say OK to that. And I've set my lock date now. So I'm logged in as manager, as you can see, just in the bottom left-hand corner there. But if I go and try and post, say, a bank payment, and we'll just show you the message that comes up. So I'm just going to click bank payment at the top there. It opens up the window. I'll just leave it nice and simple, my 1200 bank account. And I'll put the 10th of December 2025 in there. So this is before the lock date that I've set on there. I'll just use 4,000 as my nominal. And just keep it nice and simple, £100 in there plus VAT. And I'm going to say save. You'll notice we get the warning message on this one. So it'll just say, you'll have seen this on the slides before, but your transaction date is set before the current lock date of the 1st of January 2026. Do you wish to proceed into the lock date? Now at this point, if I think, hang on, that's the wrong date that I've put in there, I can say no, and I can go and amend it. But if I know that I need to post this, I can just click yes to that, and it will just post it for me. So it's posted that transaction. So if I close out of here, go into my transactions module, and you can see down here, we've got my bank payment there, and it's been posted as of the 10th of December. So that's posting it as logged in as a manager. If I try to amend a transaction as well, you'll get the same message. I'll just go up to the top. So say this transaction here, got one here, which is in September 2025. If I try and edit that, again, we get that warning message just letting us know that we're about to edit a transaction that's dated before that current lock date. And then if I want to override that, I can just say yes, and I can continue. I'll just click no to that on there. So what happens if you don't have the access? So if I go to File at the top, and I'm going to log off as manager, Just gives me that message that it's going to close all open windows there. And then I'll log on as a different user, as Laura. And you can see now in the bottom left-hand corner, I've got the username Laura rather than manager. If I go to settings at the top, and scroll down on here, you can see that I no longer have that lock date option on there. Excuse me. Just muting myself just to cough so I don't deafen you all. So you can see here we don't have that lock date option within the settings menu on there. But if I go to tools, just to show you within here, period end again, the other two options that we had. If I go to month end, you'll see in here, I don't have the option to set that lock date within here, but within the running the month end, the lock date still applies to when the manager set that. So we've still got the lock date is going to run. So if you were going to run that month end, you can't change the lock date on there. The manager set that, but it will still run with the lock date set by the manager. And that's the same, if I cancel out of there, just show you the year end. So period and year end in there and drag that across. That's just the same. So that option is missing from there now. You can't set the lock date, but because the manager has set a lock date, it already applies. So it still applies to running that year end. It will still run with that lock date. So if I go and try and post a bank payment now, so if I go into my bank accounts, and if I go to bank payment, I'm going to use exactly the same details. So I'll do the 10th of December, 2025, same nominal code, £100 plus VAT. If I save that now, I don't get that yes or no option, I get the error message, and it'll just say your transaction date is set before the current lock date of the 1st of January 2026. If the date's correct, please refer to your system administrator or accountant for advice on how to post into a lock date. So system administrator, whoever's got the manager login, or somebody who's got the rights to be able to post into that period. So I can't override that, I can't post that, it won't let me. The only thing I can do is close out of that. And do I want to save the changes? No, because I can't actually post anything. That's the same for transactions as well. So if I go to transactions, we'll go to the same one. You can probably guess we're going to get which message we're going to have. So I've got my sales invoice, 6th of September. If I edit that, again, it just tells me that I don't have the permission to edit the transaction on there. If I just quickly show you, I think I showed you before, but I might have been coughing at the same time, but settings, we don't have the options in here just to set that lock date either from the settings option when logged in as Laura there. So if we log back in as manager, and I'll show you how you can amend the settings for somebody as well. So I'm just going to go to File and Log Off. And then we'll log back on as manager. You can see in that bottom left-hand corner, username now manager. If I go to settings at the top, and I'm going to go down to user management, and I'm going to click on users. And we'll see we've got the two users, manager and Laura. If I highlight Laura, and I'm going to click on edit. And now if you remember, the option was in settings. So if I go to level of access, and within here, if I scroll down to my settings menu, which is just here, if I expand that, scroll down a bit further, we've got the lock date settings option on here. So I'm going to tick that, and I'm going to click finish, and I'm going to click save to that. And what that'll do is that's given me now access when logged in as Laura to be able to post into that, that lock date there. So if I go back in to File and Log Off, we'll log back in as Laura. So there's a couple of other things I'm going to show you in here as well. Not as manager, I'm already in as manager. I'll log in as Laura. You can see now it's changed me over, I'm logged in as Laura. If now I go to bank accounts, and if I go to post a bank payment, and I'm going to set the date to the 10th December 2025, £4,100. If I go to save that now, it just gives me that warning message. So now I can post into that lock date because I've now got that access on there. So I'm going to say yes to that and close out of there. From the transactions module as well, you can also add in a column which shows you, which I've already got mine shown in here, a late entry date column within here. So anywhere along this row along here, if you right click, you can add in or take things out. So if I just take it out to show you what that looks like, it removes that column. That column's no longer shown on there. If I right click and click on late entry date, that gives me an extra column and it tells me transactions that have been posted prior to that lock date. So that's our lock date there. We know there was a lock date set for the 1st of January 2026, and we can see these 3 transactions here have been posted prior to that date. It also tells us who's posted them as well, if you've got the username column highlighted as well. So that can be quite handy too. There is a report as well that you can run. So if we go, still in transactions, if we go to reports at the top, now I've got mine starred. If you don't have it in your favorites, if you go to transactions from here, there's a late entry transactions report that you can run. Basically transactions posted into a closed period overriding a lock date. So if I preview that, just to show you what that looks like, I'll leave the criteria the same. So it just gives us the whole criteria on there for it. And I'll just open this so you can have a look. I make that a bit bigger so you can see it. So you can see those 3 transactions that we just had a look at there in that column. It tells us that these were all posted. They've overridden this date. That's our lock date. Those are the dates for the postings on there. And we've got obviously the amounts and things like that and the transaction numbers. So that can be quite handy as well if you need a report that just shows transactions that have been posted into a lock date on there. The other thing that I'm going to show you as well is the, if I go back into file, I'm just going to go back in, log in as manager on there. I'm just going to take off the rights for the LoRa user login, just to show you invoices in there as well when you're updating them to ledgers. So if I just log back in as manager, and then I can show you again where you can change that to if you missed it before. So it was in settings at the top, and this is when you're logged in as manager. Users or user management, and then users, and it'll open up our user window. I'm going to go back into LoRa, just going to click edit. I'm going to go to level of access, and remember it was in the settings menu that you can view that lock date where you can set the lock date. If I go back into here and go for my settings menu, down to lock date, and I'm just going to take that off, finish that and save it. So we now see it as partial because I haven't got access to something, and I'm just going to close that. I'm just going to go and log back in as LoRa. Then I'm going to go into my invoices and credits module, because what you can do is, whereas I can't post any transactions, I can post invoices into here. I just can't update them to the ledgers. So just to show you, if I go into new invoice and I'm just going to pick a date prior to the 1st, we'll say the 5th of November. Pick any account on there, it doesn't really matter which one it is. So we've got an account on there. I'm posting prior to the lock date. I'll pick battery packs. And we'll just say 1, so it doesn't matter what it's for on there, just so I can show you. So if I click save on there, that's given me no warning and no error message on there. If I close out of there, we can see the invoice, got 2. This is the one I've just posted there. If I try and update that to the ledgers, I'll get the error message at that point. So the reason that you get it at that point on there is because you're posting it, and you haven't posted it into that period at the moment until you update the ledgers. Once you click update ledgers, that's when you're posting it. So because I'm then trying to post it, it's telling me that one of the transactions is before a current lock date of the 1st of January 2026. The rest's just the same. If it's correct, refer to your system administrator, etc. on there. So I can't post, I can't update the ledgers. I can post the invoices, I just can't update them to the ledgers in there. But if you're logged in as manager, manager can then go in and can update them from there. So I'm going to pop back in there now to show you. If you're ever unsure how to log off and log back on as another user, you've seen it quite a few times on here now. I'll just log back in as manager. So you can see in the bottom, I'm logged in as manager there. If I now go to my invoices and credits, there's my invoice that we posted when logged in as LoRa. I go to update ledgers, get the warning message but I can override that. I can then say yes to that. I'm going to override it. Let's put this one here, preview that. And it tells me what's been updated to the ledgers there. Just make that a bit bigger. There. So that's been updated to the ledgers. So it all comes down to the user access levels on there. So your user rights, what you can and can't do with it on there. You can also import transactions as well. So if you're logged in with user rights, you can import transactions. If you have the user rights on there, if you don't have the user rights, you're going to come up with that error message on there. I'll quickly show you that as well. So if I just go to File, we'll go back in as Laura. We don't have the access rights as Laura, and I'll just show you what that looks like. I do have one that I can just quickly demo. So if we go to File at the top, and we're going to go to Import. And if you're ever not too sure where to get your import templates from, if you click on where it says here, I'll just show you that as well. It gives you all of the import templates that you can use. But I would always say whenever you're going to import anything, always do a backup first of all, just in case anything goes wrong. I've recently taken a backup, and just for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm just going to click next so it's a bit quicker. I'm going to go to Audit Trail Transactions because it's just a transaction that I've got, and I'm going to click next. It's an Excel worksheet. I'm just going to browse to that. I've got one here, which is just on my desktop, which is just a Lockdale audit transaction on there. I'm just going to highlight that, click open. Now my first row on there contains headings, so I'm going to leave that ticked. And I'm going to click next. And it just gives you a summary of what you're going to be importing. Now remember, I'm logged in as Laura, so I'm expecting it to come back with an error message. So records not imported, error in record 1, date is locked. So that's what it's telling us, that we're posting into a lock date. So just so you can see what that looks like on there. If we're logged in as manager, it'll just import that in straight away for you. So the lock date itself, it applies to all users for the company. So anybody logging into the company, the lock date is going to be set for absolutely everybody. It just depends on their access levels, which you can see. You've seen how we can amend that in settings and then the users. You can only apply one lock date as well. So you can't apply multiple lock dates on there. And you can't future date a lock date to prevent future postings either. So it's just sort of in the past that you can log those for. So what I've done is I've included some links on here just to some of our guides on our help centre there. So just to go over what we've covered there. So things like how you can prevent postings before a specific date, and how you can configure users to access the lock date, which we saw there. It was quite straightforward. You're just going to go into the users settings on there. But there's also a link on there as well for our Sage Help Centre too. So just anything else that you think of that you might want to have a look at, it's a really handy place to go and have a look. There's loads of different guides on there with steps. I'm just having a look at the questions there. It looks like Michael's on top of the questions there. So if you do have any, just make sure you get them popped in there. I'll keep that open just for a couple of moments longer while Michael finishes answering those last few questions. But don't forget, you're also going to get that recording of today's session as well in around about an hour's time by email. So if you do want to watch it back at your own pace, or if you want to give it to a colleague to watch, then that's going to be available for you there too. So you can also access our webinars page at sage.co.uk/webinars. So all the past recordings are free to view in here, along with signing up for our upcoming webinars. The link's just on the slide for you there too. But next week, we're going to be running live webinars on things like how to clear your audit trail, setting up nominal records, things like the structure and options available in there as well. And plus I'll be running through the year-end process as well on Monday at 2 o'clock. So if you're looking at wanting to get signed up for those, if you have a look and head over to our webinar site, you can get signed up to those really easily. But there's plenty more webinars on the page there. So just have a look and see what you want to get signed up for. We also have the Community Hub, which I'm not sure if a lot of people sort of know about it on there, which if you haven't seen it before, it's an online forum in Sage 50 accounts users, or for Sage 50 accounts users, I should say, just to share things like knowledge and swap ideas and solve problems together on there, but it's completely free to join. You can ask questions where other users, along with Sage experts, can help you and advise you. You might sort of see questions that other people have asked, and you might know the answer and want to pop things on there too. But you can also keep updated with what's happening. It's also open 24/7 as well. So if you're working late and you think, hang on, I just want to go and check something, it's available all the time there. There's a link just on there which just takes you straight to the hub. And I've also included an additional survey, which I hope you don't mind taking a quick look at. It's just to help to shape, or help us to shape your learning around what really matters to you there. There is a QR code on the screen there, so you can scan that with your phone. That's a bit easier on there, but there is a link on there when you download the slides too, which you can go straight to as well. But other than that, I can't see any more questions coming in there around the lock date on there. So that does bring us to the end of today's session. So I hope you found it useful, and it makes it easier to see how and who you can set the lock date for as well. So remember, it's all around the user settings on there. But as always, you'll get the survey when leaving today's session, which I'd love it if you could fill it in and leave us any feedback or any comments around what else you'd like to see on a webinar, perhaps. We always love it when people sort of give us their ideas on what you'd like to see on a webinar, or if there's just anything you'd like to see done differently or anything that you've liked today as well. But for now, thank you for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.